And I have a
Hello,
question for
Ambassador.
the. How are you?
Okay.
I have a question for the panel. This commemoration is extremely impressive, and I'm just wondering if the Park Service or others are thinking about establishing the linkage between these first Africans in 1619 and their home communities in Africa.
Okay. Who wants to take that on? Jerry?
Well, I'm only a month here, but um, I'm sure I can speak for the agency. We're definitely in the camp of connecting this story to all stories that tie into it. So
And as a
I'm
matter of
open
fact,
to that for
yeah,
sure.
tomorrow during the launch commemoration, there will also be some representatives, I believe, from some of the African countries. So yes, they're working on that.
And, yeah, and let me just
Yeah,
add
is that right?
and especially Project 1619, as
Yeah.
the founder of the founding ceremony, they have done a great job of researching this history and reaching across the ocean. We talk about this as being a Fort Monroe story, and then we say, oh no, it's a Virginia story, and then we say, oh no, it's a national story. The truth of the matter is, this is an international story, and this is where these cultures need to come together and recognize what took place here and where it began. I mean, how many times do when you're trying to resolve a problem, that you say, where did it begin? And if you go back and find out where it began, it maybe it changes the dialogue. Just real quickly, one of the things that I've learned is that the letters that the soldiers here, New England soldiers, many of them had never seen an enslaved person before, the letters that they wrote home to back in Massachusetts when they had met these first enslaved people, they were amazed that they were not seeking retribution on their masters or their owners. What they wanted was they wanted to be able to worship in freedom, and they wanted to be educated. And the idea that Mary Pete came here and with others ended up creating something with a legacy goes all the way to Hampton University. The idea that we have 4 churches in Hampton that have direct ties back to the contraband, that's the legacy that I think is so impressive.
I wonder how many people out there who have lived in Hampton Roads all their lives have no idea that this much history lives right here. So okay, bring in Hampton University. What happened and how did Hampton Institute back then, I guess it was,
Right.
or Hampton Normal School,
Hampton
right?
Normal Industrial and Agricultural School was founded in 1868 by Samuel Chapman Armstrong, who actually came to the Tidewater area to work here at Fort Monroe, I believe, as a officer. He had been a military officer where he had commanded black troops. And so when the war ended, the Civil War ended, he wrote to his mother who was in Hawaii. His parents were missionaries there. And he said he wanted to start a school different from what was being started by the American Missionary Association. So there were little schools and things that had been established for African Americans or the newly freed slaves. And so he began Hampton on the model of a normal industrial agricultural school, which was very much what he grew up learning about in Hawaii.
And that would be teaching and agriculture. Is that
Yes, it
that would
was,
be the major focus?
The normal was the teacher's training, and then the manual included industrial arts, shoemaking, various trades, agriculture. And often people might say, well, why would you teach that to people who have worked as slaves or who were slaves? And what he was doing, though, was retraining them to operate in this newly emancipated status. With everything going on, it was a lot of confusion. Even though that Slabtown had been established, African Americans were starting their communities.
Slabtown?
Slabtown is also a bit of our history. That is where the Hampton golf courses are. City of Hampton golf courses. This was a little area that the African Americans rebuilt after the Northerners came in and tore up Hampton, burned down the city of Hampton, and established this area to live. And really what they wanted Armstrong to do is to come in and kind of give the land back to the white owners, previous owners. And so he came into a lot, that Butler did a lot, there was a lot going on. And so he established Hampton with 15 teachers or 2 teachers, 15 students, old Army barracks from the war, And the mansion house that still is on our campus, built in 1828, that was the only property left on the campus.
And the Hampton also educated Native Americans.
Yes, that happened 10 years later in 1878. So General Armstrong was a fascinating man for his time. We always have different debates and also trying to explain to our students who may not understand because, everything is about context. And so I feel he was a very, very brave man to come into this area, start a school for African Americans, 10 years later, bring in American Indians, and he also educated women. And that was not.
He was really cutting edge.
Really out there, yes.
Yeah, Tina.
And I just wanted to
Tina
chime in to kind of restore myself historically. When Glenn was telling that story about Fort Monroe, just to see how interconnected we are, when those slaves who were designated as contraband of war, they actually fled behind Union lines to Camp Hamilton at the Union Hospital, which was a site which would be the site of Hampton Institute. So we're all connected. When they fled, it actually went over to what was the site of Hampton Institute and Hampton University.
So it all
connects together.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there were just some. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
There was so many. I mean, I just wanted to get this one point in because I always try to make the story relevant to today. There was those 3 men, and then they believe it was 3 more, and the next night it was 8, and then it was dozens, and then it was
It's like the Great Migration from the South.
Until what we believe is almost 10,000 slaves were seeking their emancipation under the protective guns of Fort Monroe, on into Camp Hamilton and other places. And so what I like to say is Fort Monroe is the site of the first successful civil rights movement that took place in our country.
All right, I like that.
And I think that's a great way to just catapult it right into
today.
today's relevance. I refer to Fort Monroe as the most historically relevant site in
It
our
really
country
is.
today.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Okay, we have a question from our audience. No more like a statement. Okay.
Good morning.
Hi. Good
now.
afternoon.
I'm Gloria Presley. I live here at the Chamberlain. I've had the opportunity of, at one time, speaking with Mr. Odom when he came to us at the Chamberlain. I call it my home by the sea now. I want to fast forward to today's Hampton Institute, Hampton University. This past Founders Day, I was the recipient of the Presidential Award, Citizenship Award. I mentioned that to Mr. Odom, and I said to him, I said, we need to have a representative from Hampton University here at the Chamberlain. I'm here on the grounds. I'm willing to volunteer. I'm willing to be on a committee. I haven't heard from you, but I'm still, and so often, this is why we don't know as much, because we are not involved in committees and volunteering, but I'm available.
Well, I guess we will make sure that we get her
And I
name
want
and
to-
number,
and I also
and
want to
make
make-
sure we get you connected.
And I
Phyllis will
want
get
to
her name and
also
number right
add
away.
that when the Indians came to be served, Booker T. Washington was selected to be their president on the campus, their principal as such, in the building called the Wigwam.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here. Absolutely. So tell us, Vanessa, some of the things that we see if we visit the Hampton University Museum,
Okay.
in terms of what we're talking about in terms of slavery and emancipation and so forth.
Well, we do have a history. We do have the history, but we're more art and other artifacts. So in reference to the history of the school and what we've talked about, we have a small section that talks about Freedom Ford and General Armstrong establishing the school. And we have also a little area that we call the Hampton History Gallery, where we do historic vignettes. We need to raise more money and get out there so that we can tell all of our story. But there we rotate exhibitions that will look at various things that deal with the history of the school. As far as the industrial arts, we have furniture made by the students in the trade school, beautiful antique pieces. We have agricultural tools. So all those things that relate actually to the college, to the university and its history. As well as in our university archives, we have General Armstrong's papers. We have one of the most well-documented archives of not only our artifacts, but the history of the school.
And I just wanted to chime in about the archives with Vanessa, because we work very closely together. Those things that are archival, like Armstrong's papers. Those are the things that we are looking towards doing more with to make it accessible to the public also. And we're actually making a lot of efforts and looking for grants and everything to make those things happening. We're partnering with organizations like the HBCU Library Alliance. So a lot of the photographs and different things about the early history of the university and the area, those things are documented with the HBCU Library Alliance, and those photographs are digital. So we're just doing a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be done, and we're just fighting the fight and keep going. And
Well, and I want to make a point too, because a lot of times I hear from non-African Americans who feel that, like you say, working with the HBCU Alliance and others, that they may not be feel included in terms of being able to come in. This is everyone's history.
Right.
I think that's the point I was stole it right from it, because it's important that those who are listening, African American history is American history, and we have to embrace it, the good and bad of it. You know, Africans, when they left their country, they came here as either slaves or explorers, and when they arrived here, they brought with them their music, their values, their aesthetic values. They were among the first to encounter the Native Americans. They had extensive experience in cultivating rice, sugar, and cotton. And all these things were important in developing a hybrid American culture. So I think when we start talking about American history, we have to make sure that this story is included. And it's nice to have this conversation today. I just want to make a plug for the National Park Service. And I mentioned earlier that we were created in 1916. We're celebrating our 100th birthday next week, August 25th. And for parents that are listening, we have this program called Find Your Park. You can hashtag it, hashtag Find Your Park. And just go to everykidinapark.gov, and your child can print out a ticket, and it gives them access to every national park in the U.S. for free. And you have access to over 2,000 recreational areas. In some parks, it's $30 to get in, so it's really important.
So, and Superintendent Brown would love for you to come
Absolutely.
to Fort Monroe. Absolutely. I know there's a gentleman in our audience with the contraband, working on contraband story. Would you like to say a few words? Right here, Lisa. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Philip Adderley. I'm the acting president of the Contraband Historical Society. Been on the ground running for more than 15 years to ensure that this historic site is preserved as a national park, first and foremost. And second, that the contraband story be alive and well in the community. Ms. Jerry L. Hollins, our founder, now deceased, worked tirelessly because she was taught by her grandmother of this story. And we just want to ensure that it continues, as well as the fact that the first landing, that it also be preserved. There's no monument to that, and I think that's what this commission should be all about, and hopefully will be about in 2019.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. We appreciate that. So, go ahead, Glenn.
I was going to say, I always enjoyed working with Bill and talking with Bill. One of the things that we have been able to do recently, because everyone's going, what's going to happen in Fort Monroe, what's going on? What we have been able to do is we have been able to redirect $5.25 million at Fort Monroe away from some infrastructure projects to the renovation of an existing building in Fort Monroe, which was the former Coastal Artillery School library. And we're going to renovate that building into the Fort Monroe Visitor Center. And while it's going to be the visitor center, and it's going to be full of welcoming information, and it's going to be your orientation to Fort Monroe, the primary stories that we're focusing on with the architects to tell in that story is the arrival story, it's the Captain John Smith Trail story, so that we can talk about the native people that were here, and then it's also going to be the contraband story. You know, these stories have been here, they've almost been cocooned for 200 years while the Army occupied the property. Again, we have a generational opportunity. The Army's not here anymore. The Army's transferring the property to the Commonwealth of Virginia. 5 years ago, we couldn't have had this discussion like we can today. And that's what's so exciting. And so the Visitor Center, working with the National Park Service, working with community groups, working with groups like Phil just mentioned, we're going to come up with a way to tell this story so that it is our history, and it is our American history, and it's an international story. We think it's going to be a game changer for Fort Monroe, for the city of Hampton, for the region, and especially for this whole story. It's going to be a national story.
And just to add to what Glenn was saying, I know that Hampton University, the history department is looking at doing some type of grant or something to work with them.
Yes.
And it goes back to your question. about people feeling that, like maybe white people feeling like they are not welcome to come to the museum. It's just the black story. No, I think the partnerships that we can create will help alleviate that problem. Because I am so tired of hearing people say, "Oh, we didn't know we could come over here. Oh, we didn't know you were here." And we don't want to be the hidden treasure. We are the treasure. There's so much to see in our museum, but I think as we work together and share the story, that will help.
So I know how excited we are about listening to this and finding out all of this information. I wonder from the two of you at Hampton first, are students becoming more interested in actually delving in and doing the research and continuing to find out more?
Yes, they are. We have some of the best students in the world at Hampton University. Shout out to Hampton University. Our students are great. Yay! Our new freshmen are arriving today all bright, shiny, and new. So, we have some of the best students at Hampton University because they are thinkers and they are learners, and they're so willing to learn about their history. But we keep going back to this theme of everyone and everything being interconnected, and it's so imperative that our students know about those cultural things that came from Africa. Like with this commemoration this weekend, we're going to see tribal dances and everything. Well, they know that stepping came from that, but to actually see that and connect it together, and then when you see things like the hairstyles, and then you get into other conversations in pop culture about, cultural misappropriation. Why is it that we're saying that? And all the other things that are going on, all of it is connected together. And our students that are thinkers, those are the questions that they ask. Those are the things that we find that they research in the library. Those are the conversations that we're having with them. And it's just a great time to be amongst young people and to be amongst young people who are aware and who are thinkers and learners. And we have a diverse population at Hampton University.
Right.
Even though we are HBCU, we have done a lot with international outreach. We have a wonderful international outreach office there. Some wonderful faculty, staff, professors that are really doing a lot to bring our students together. So we really want our students to learn, and they're becoming so immersed in who they are and wanting to not only learn who they are, but learn who they are so they can give back to our communities and teach those after them.
And then how do